I want to talk about the Hall of Fame, and we had some recent finalists announced, but I'm not necessarily going to talk about the people who are going in. Obviously, we know, um, the rock solid locks, right? I want to talk about somebody who didn't get the call, who did not make it as even a finalist to be a Hall of Famer, and that person is Chris Bosh. Um, I want to know, and I'm gonna let you guys know what I think, but I want to know: do you think that Chris Bosh is deserves to be a first ballot Hall of Fame? I really, I want to know. I think Chris Bosh is one of those guys who he is the lightning rod for this type of conversation. Um, like he's one of those guys who people like to debate whether or not he deserves to be a Hall of Famer. So we talk about the finalist. Finalist is Kobe Bryant. I mean, yeah, we don't even need to discuss it, right? We already know it's gonna happen. Tamika Catchings, I think she should be a lock. Tim Duncan, we don't even need to discuss it. It's going. Kevin Garnett, Kim Mulkey, Eddie Sutton, Barbara Stevens, and Rudy Tomjanovich. I mean, I'm feeling like all of these people are. I mean, you don't really see somebody like, like Barbara Stevens, 41 seasons as a head coach, fifth women's coach to win 1,000 games. You don't see people like her or even Mulkey, first person to win a national championship as a player, assistant coach, and a head coach. You don't see people like that even get acknowledged as finalists if they're not going to be inducted. So I expect them all to get in, right? And I don't have a problem with any of them. But I gotta tell you, I think Chris Bosh is one of the most disrespected players in like recent basketball history. And I am not trying to say you some people will say, oh, Kobe Bryant, Kevin Garnett, Tim Duncan, he's not on their level. There's no way in the world he deserves to go in. Their first ballot, no doubt. He doesn't deserve to go in like that. Just because he's not Kobe Bryant, just because he's not Kevin Garnett, just because he wasn't, Tim Duncan, which I don't think the gap is as significant between him and Tim Duncan and Kevin Garnett as maybe some people. Clearly, those guys are better players or better players than Chris Bosh, and clearly those guys have more impressive careers. But I don't think it's a situation where Chris Bosh can't play on the same. It's like he's playing a whole different entirely lower level game than those guys. Those guys are better players. Those guys had better careers. But that doesn't mean that Chris Bosh doesn't deserve to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. All first ballot Hall of Famers are not created exactly equal. And if you look over Chris Bosh's career, he's an 11-time All-Star. 11. There are so many people who are in the Hall of Fame who were not All-Stars that many times. Tracy McGrady, Grant Hill. That's just two off the top of my head. I think Jason Kidd's a 10-time All-Star. And then now let's spin this back. Chris Bosh played an integral role on two NBA championship teams. Two of them. He's 2006, 2007 All NBA team. And I think what happens is from 2010 on, right, when he joined the Miami Heat, people look at the fact that his numbers dipped. Like especially all of his numbers dipped. Scoring, rebound, they all dipped. And he left and went to the Heat in the prime of his career. He's only 26 years old when he came to Miami, right? First year averages 18.7, 8.3 rebounds, 18.7.9 rebounds the next year. Then it starts to dip down, 16.6, 16.2. Then the health issues started to happen. And I think you look at that, right? And you look at, okay, he played 13 seasons in the NBA and 2 of those seasons he missed significant time because of injuries. He's obviously had the heart issues. But over his career, 19 points a game, 8.5 rebounds, 2 assists, a block a game. He became a fantastic, oh, I won't say a fantastic. He became a capable 3-point shooter. He's always an efficient scorer. I think he was an underrated defender, even though he played out of position most of his career, because I would say he's not a prototypical center, never was. But I just don't understand how somebody can suggest that an 11-time All-Star who played a huge role in 2 championship teams is not a first ballot Hall of Famer. Now, I put it like, I get it. Chris Bosh is going to get in. I believe he's going to get in. If he doesn't get in, there's a travesty. And maybe they're looking at the class, right? Maybe they're saying Kobe, Garnett, Duncan. Yeah, Bosh doesn't match with those guys. And because the other guys that are going in, other people that are going in, Tom Janovich is going in as a player and coach. He won championships with the Rockets as a head coach. I get it. I get it. Heart of a champion. I got it. Obviously, Tamika Catchings is going in. She has just been a fantastic contributor to the overall game. And then you got a couple other people who are going in as like these career accomplishments and having touched different levels of the game with Kim Mulkey, Eddie Sutton. He's got 50 million wins as a head coach. Barbara Stevens. I get it. But when you're talking about just regular like players who who they did their contribution to the game almost entirely in the NBA as players, when you're talking about Duncan and Garnett and Kobe, I get it. Bosh is not really on that level. But like I said, I don't think that you have to say because he's not on that level, he can't go in as a first ballot guy in the same class with them. I think it is yet another and yet the latest example of Chris Bosh disrespect. Bosh is so disrespect. And I hate it that this is the way with this guy, right? Because he already had to eat that his career ended prematurely. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't feel that sorry for somebody who's as rich and he's very blessed to be healthy enough to still be able to enjoy his family and these type of things. And, because he's still a young man by life standards. The guy is only 35 years old. He won't even be 36 until March. So he's still a young man and has a lot of life left to live, God willing, But from a professional standpoint, he already has to live with the fact that his career ended at 31 years old. And he wanted to try to play again, but couldn't get medically cleared to play, and so on and so forth. He already has to live with that. Bosh sacrificed a lot to be a part of the Miami Heat because when he was with the Raptors, he was a killer. I mean, the last year with the Raptors, he averaged 24 points and just under 11 rebounds a game, 2.5 assists. He shot 36% from 3. Didn't shoot that many of them, but then he shot just under 52% from the field. He had literally just had the best season of his career, right? So he goes to the Heat because he wants to win a championship, because he wants to add to his overall legacy. This is why he went there. And I'm thinking he's probably thinking that I get overall more appreciation as an athlete, as a player, if I can say that I won a championship or multiple championships. We know the whole scene, not 3, not 4, not 5. This was part of what he wanted to do. And that type of thing is supposed to improve your Hall of Fame resume. But yet we got guys like, and I'm not putting this guy down and saying he doesn't deserve to be a Hall of Famer, but yet we got guys like Tracy McGrady and Grant Hill who were never significant parts of, they either didn't win a championship or weren't significant parts of a championship team. And those guys are going in like first ballot guys and they're getting in. And this guy who has a far more significant, I think, team resume than these guys. And I mean, look, you look at Tracy McGrady. McGrady went in 2017, right? Which was pretty much, I believe that was first ballot. His last year in the league was the 11-12 season. He played in China in 12-13. So you have to count that year. He couldn't have gone in until he stopped playing altogether anyway, because you got to remember the Hall of Fame, the Basketball Hall of Fame is the Basketball Hall of Fame. It is not the NBA Hall of Fame. So it's when you stop being active as a player in the world, as a professional player. So he goes in there, and you look at Grant Hill. Now, don't get me, I love Grant Hill. I think Grant Hill is like the guy who young basketball fans, they really have no idea how good he was. Him and Penny, they have no idea what they missed and what could have happened if were it not for injury. So I'm not dissing Grant Hill, right, at all. But Grant Hill went in 2018, which I think maybe he didn't go in first ballot. I think it was the year after that. Or maybe they hadn't quite. Yeah, I think it wasn't first ballot. I don't know, because they changed it where it's like, it's weird. Now, it used to be like 5 seasons. Now it's like more like 4 years. It's something weird, right? My point is, if Grant Hill is in as a 7-time All-Star, 5-time All-NBA, but never sniffed championship level, never. And if you look at the whole like second half of his career, nowhere near an all-star, nowhere near. I mean, Grant Hill's prime was the first 6 years of his career, and then after that, we're talking about significant drop off. If Grant Hill's a Hall of Famer at all, and I'm not saying he shouldn't be, Chris Bosh is the first ballot Hall of Famer, and that's all I got to say about it. I don't know how else we can break that down. And like I said, I would love to hear what you guys think and what other people think about this. And because he's disappointed, because that's kind of what brought this on. That's what made me kind of explore this as a topic, because he's disappointed in the fact that he is not a Hall of Famer, and that he was left off as a finalist. And I don't blame him. I would be disappointed as well. So like I said, I would love to see and hear what you guys have to say about this and other things that we have discussed here on this episode of the show. I am going to come back and check these comments throughout the day. And if you missed any part of this show, this is something that we're going to do moving forward. We did this with At Me Bro with my man Nelson Blake. And shout out to Nelson. We both decided that we would kind of go in a different direction in terms of, letting him have full control over the show, over At Me Bro, and him just taking over it. And he's done that and really killed it with the NBA 2K My Team content. So congratulations to him. He is coming up on 1,000 subscribers like gangbusters. I envision he'll probably have it even before the end of the month. My man Smooth Creation says that he believes that if Bosh had stayed in Toronto, he would be a Hall of Famer. I would have to agree. And that's really, think about that though, man. That's a shame. That is a shame that we always talk about players don't want to win. We always say that, right? Guys don't want to win. They just in it for the money. This is one of the main things that people say about professional athletes. But then you got a guy who sacrificed money, because when LeBron, Wade, and Bosh went to Miami, they all took less money than what they could have gotten if they had gone someplace individually, and all of them took the absolute max contracts. So they all took less money to go and be a part of a team that they felt had the greatest chance to win. He did that, sacrificed numbers, sacrificed attention, sacrificed all of that to get the 2 championships that they got. And I think Smooth Creation, myself, and anybody who was thinking logically would have to say he made that decision and it ended up costing him in the way that people look at him. Now, I also think I have to add in there, that the premature end of his career because of the physical ailments that also played a part. But if he had stayed in Toronto and had had all of these straight seasons, all in Toronto, averaging 25, 20, 23, 24 points a game, I think at that point, I think he still, even if his career ends early, like it did, if the numbers that he would have continued to put up, I think, yes, I think you're right. I think he would have been a Hall of Famer. And I think that's a shame. I think that is really a shame that his his team focus and his team accomplishments are being drowned out.
Pocket, I'll be weak. I'm rather unique.